Okay, so the first thing we are going to want to do to start our 1-point perspective drawing is on your paper, you're going to want to draw an X across the paper. And this will help you find your vanishing point. So I'm going to use a ruler, and what I'm simply going to do is connect corner to corner and then corner to corner here. Now, if you do not have a ruler, any type of straight object with kind of a hard edge will work. So I have that corner connected, and now I'm going to connect my other corner. And where these lines intersect, this is where my vanishing point will be. So my lines intersect in the middle, so my vanishing point is going to be here. Now the next thing I want to do is we're going to create the back wall. So really the easiest way to do this is measure from the side or edge of your paper to the line. And so we're going to do that all the way around. Now, again, if you don't have a ruler, that's fine. You can simply take a piece of paper and make a mark and then just repeat that mark. So what I'm going to do is, just for simplicity, I'm going to measure from the edge of my paper to the 3-inch line. And we're just going to make a little dash right here. And then I'm going to slide my ruler down and try and find where that 3-inch hits the line again. So it's right here. Just make a little dash. And then we can connect these. And then we'll do the same on the other side. So I'm just going to connect these two dashes that I made. And they should be parallel. There we go. And we're going to do the same on this side. So we're just going to measure 3 inches. So edge of my ruler to the 3-inch mark is touching the line right here. And you don't have to necessarily do 3 inches. However, if you use a measurement that is smaller, so for example, like if you're measuring 2 inches, that means you're going to have a really big back wall. If you use a larger measurement, such as 4 inches, for example, that is going to make your back wall really small. So it depends on how big you want that back wall of your room to be. So I have these two dots, I'm going to connect these. And then the last step is I'm going to connect here to here. And we'll just do this side. So this is going to be my back wall of my room. These lines are going to separate the ceiling from the walls. This line is going to separate the floor from the walls. So we don't need this X in the middle anymore. We do still need the vanishing point where the two lines intersected, so we are going to keep that. Okay, so those are erased, and we'll just be left with that vanishing point and the lines marking our ceiling, floor, and the two side walls. So this is our back wall, and then these are our side walls of our room. To put a door in, so we're going to do the door first. We could put just a simple rectangle right here if we want a door on the back wall. I'm going to put a door on this side. And to do a door, and so again, with your transversal lines, the vertical and horizontal lines, we want these to be parallel with the sides of your wall and the horizontal lines parallel with the ceiling and floor lines. So it's just something you want to keep in mind as you are drawing. So what I'm going to do first to start my door is we're just going to draw a line up like this. So it just starts from the floor and goes up. And then the top of the door, I'm going to connect to my vanishing point. Now, there's no reason to draw the line all the way to the vanishing point because I would just have to erase it. So I'm just going to simply draw this as wide as I want my door. So I just drew it this far, and then to make the end of the door, I'm going to draw straight down. And again, we want this line parallel with the edge of the door frame. So this space would be, either the door into the room or a closet door or a door into wherever you're wanting to put it. For a door handle, we can just do a simple circle for a doorknob. If you wanted like a longer door handle, you could, and we don't even need the ruler for this, we just want a parallel line, or a line that's parallel to the side of the door. And then the top and bottoms, we're going to connect to our vanishing point. Now the lines we're going to draw for this are going to be fairly short because we don't want to draw all the way to the door frame. And then you'll just connect these lines with another line that is parallel. Darken that just so you can see it on the screen. So that would be, for example, how you would do just a real simple kind of door pull or door handle. For a window, we'll put a window on this side. So a window is going to be fairly similar to the door, except instead of drawing from the floor up, we're going to base it off of a line that is essentially floating in this space. Just want to make sure that this is parallel, going in the same direction. And I'm just going to have this floating line on the wall, and then the tops and bottoms we're going to connect to the vanishing point. So this is in a way similar to how we are drawing the door handle, or how we just drew the door handle. So I'm going to draw to there. And again, you don't necessarily need to draw all the way to the point. You can see this line has been faded out just a little bit. So I want to connect these two lines with a parallel line. Now, this is a little bit longer than this original line, or the line at the top. So if I were just to connect these two, that would not be parallel with this wall line. So if you can see, it's just a little bit wider at the top. So something like this, I just want to double check and make sure that the line I'm going to create is parallel. So there's a little bit of space here. It's kind of light, but we can simply just kind of sketch that in and connect it. So this is a basic window opening for our door, or for our bedroom. Now, to create a window sill or an indent into the window, on this side we're going to draw a horizontal line that goes this way. And it doesn't need to be too far, but we do need it to be parallel with this bottom floor line. So I'm going to start where this corner is, and I want the line to be parallel with my floor line. then we'll do the same at the top. So we're going to start here and go straight across. Again, it should be parallel with the ceiling line this time around. And then you will just connect these two lines with a vertical line that's parallel to this. And again, this one's just a little bit longer, so I'll have to extend this one just a little bit. So there's a little bit of a space right here. We'll just fill that in. Now, what we're going to do next, the corners right here of this, what you can see now is a tall rectangle, we're going to connect these corners to our vanishing point, or line them up with our vanishing point. So the corner that's right here, I'm going to connect that to the vanishing point, and then I'm not going to draw all the way through. We're simply going to fill in this space like that, and then we'll do the same below. So vanishing point, we'll connect it to that corner. And now you have the appearance of an indented windowsill. So the tops and bottoms of the windowsill disappear because we can't see them any further past this edge of the wall. So for example, if this space would be our outside space, so we would have a horizon line outside. We would want to make sure that it is in alignment with our vanishing point. So that could be the outside line. We can make it look a little more natural so it just isn't so straight. If you want to add natural elements to the outside, so for example, we have a tree. You can create even more depth or space and depth by putting smaller trees past the horizon line. Maybe another little tiny one back here. So that helps show that there's a bit more depth in the exterior, outside the room. So that gives some context as to what we're looking at right now. One of the other things you should be including in your drawing, a bed and a table. We'll do the bed first since it's going to be larger. We could put it up against the wall. We could put it up against the wall here. We could put the bed right here even. We're going to go ahead and we'll put the bed long ways. So we're actually looking at the footboard of the bed, and then the floorboard would be, or the headboard would be right here. So we're going to start with just a basic rectangle to start off the bed. So we're going to have kind of a longer rectangle in this space. So I'm going to start by just making the bottom line like this. And so that's the bottom line of our rectangle, and then we're going to have lines that go up that are parallel with the sides. And then a line that's going to connect these two. Next thing we want to do is we're going to connect this corner, and this corner to our vanishing point. And again, I wouldn't necessarily draw all the way to the vanishing point because you'll just probably have to end up erasing some stuff. So we'll draw partially to that point. And we'll do this corner to connect. Like this. So now what it looks like, you have this like three-dimensional form that is emerging into the wall space. The problem is we don't want the bed looking like it's like shooting out of the wall. So the bed has to essentially end at this wall line. So what we mean by that is we're going to take this from the wall line. We need a vertical line that's parallel with this edge. And then we're just going to go straight out over with a horizontal line that is parallel to this horizontal line. And so what this gives this the appearance of is that the bed is pushed all the way up against the back wall of the bedroom. Now for a headboard, you could just create a rectangle or some type of design. These lines need to be parallel. This should be parallel with the wall lines as well. And then you'll just connect these two with a horizontal line. So we're working with basic geometric shapes. And to make this look, if you wanted it more decorative, and anytime you want to add like curves into something, I would always start with a square or a rectangle, and then you can create the curves inside of it. It's a little more accurate in terms of creating that perspective. Now, one thing I noticed in this, the headboard doesn't really have much depth to it. So what I could do to change that, because it looks very flat, it doesn't look very realistic. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this and push it back just a little bit. Meaning, so instead of starting my vertical line going up right here on this line, I'm going to start it a little bit before. So I'm going to start it before this point, and I can just kind of follow what I already have. And go ahead and connect this. And we need to connect this line over now. And then we'll just go back up with a vertical line and reconnect these two top lines. Now, in order to create depth, so this looks a little more three-dimensional, I can refollow that line, go back up, and then from this point, we're going to create another diagonal or orthogonal line. So it's pretty short, but it will help add depth. And then we need another orthogonal line starting at this point. And then we're just going to connect these two with a horizontal line. And so that way it looks like the headboard actually has more of a three-dimensional quality to it. Now, we have this kind of floor line that's still visible inside the bed. We don't need that, so we can get rid of that. We aren't going to see through the bed to see the floor and wall lines, so we don't need that either. If you can still see your lines after you erase them, that's fine, because once you start adding your values, they should cover those up anyway. So now the bed has a little bit more depth to it. If you're wanting to add like a pillow, for example, One way you could do this is you just have to imagine dropping a long rectangle right here. And so whenever you're drawing something from this particular perspective, you want to kind of draw that basic shape first, meaning in this case a longer rectangle. And then, so here's like the edge of the pillow, for example, just so you can see it a little more clearly. And then I'm going to connect this to my vanishing point. I can connect this to my vanishing point, although the edge is already there because of the edge of the bed. And we're not going to make this line super long, because again, if you make it too long, it's going to make it look like it's kind of like coming out of the headboard, which we don't want. And then we'll connect here over. So we have this kind of blocky looking pillow. We'll erase this so you can see it more clearly. Now, pillow normally does not look like this, where it looks like a chunk of stone. So you can go through and, like I mentioned before, you can kind of round these lines and make it look more natural. You're simply using the geometric form that you originally drew to kind of reshape things, so it gives you a guide of how to make it look. So for example, like if we have light coming in through this window, this side would be a bit shaded. I'm going to use my curved kind of hatching lines here. Just kind of fade some of these out. And then it's going to be lighter on this side. Maybe a little bit of shadowing because the bed's kind of in the corner. And then this part of the pillow would probably be a little bit lighter because it's closer to the window. If you wanted to do like a line for like a sheet, for example, this is just going to kind of follow like this, added a little bit of a curve to it to show the mattress is curved, and then it will come across this way. So next thing we can add is a table. A table essentially is going to start fairly similar, like a bed like this. You're just going to start with a basic geometric shape to start that table. So let's say we wanted to put a table over here, maybe against the wall. So we're going to just start with basic shape. Now, one thing to consider is that if I make this line, this bottom line of my geometric shape go into the wall, it's going to make it look like the table is jutting out of the wall, which would be okay, but then it would be jutting out of the wall really, really low. If you're wanting something to look like it's attached to the wall, it would have to be a little bit higher up. So we're going to make a vertical line. We just want to make sure it's parallel with this. Another vertical line. Make sure it's parallel with our wall line. And then we would connect these two. So I'm going to do this one without the ruler. Just sketch it. And then connect this corner, and this corner to vanishing point. Now this is another case where I'm going to stop my line right here at the floor line, because if I go any further, it's going to look like it's like emerging out of the wall, and that's not what you're wanting to do. So we'll just have that one kind of trail off, and then we'll have this do the same. And then we're just going to have a vertical line move straight up, make sure it's parallel with these, and then we'll do a horizontal line going across. It has to be parallel, of course, with your floor line and the ceiling, as well as this original horizontal line of the table that we drew. Now, we don't need these other extra kind of floating lines, so we can go ahead and erase those. And we're not going to see inside the table. It's not going to be transparent, so we can erase those floor lines that we can still see, so that way those are gone. And to make legs of the table, you can have another start with a geometric shape. I made this line a little long because then it would look like it's like kind of in the way of the door. So I'm just going to start with just a basic rectangle. And then we do the same over here. So want to try and make it as close to the other shape as possible. And then I'm going to connect this corner to my vanishing point. Just a little short line, and then I'm going to come straight down, connect this corner to my vanishing point. And have another vertical line straight down. And then, you know, we wouldn't just have a table with these like kind of front legs. It needs to have something else to stand on. So the other legs of the table, this is going to be a little bit shorter. And then we would just connect this corner to our vanishing point. So as long as you remember to connect all diagonal lines to your vanishing point, you know, on this side of the drawing, the diagonal lines are going to connect this way. On this side of the drawing, or on this side of the vanishing point, they're all going to emerge to the vanishing point this way. So depending on where you're drawing your objects, the diagonal lines may be going in different directions. And then we need that last kind of back leg of the table. And then this corner would connect to the vanishing point. So just another fairly short line, another vertical line, and we'll just add some shadowing so you can see those a little more clearly. And then I left these sides a little lighter just because our light is coming in this way. So the two front sides of these legs would be lighter, and then the sides of the legs would probably be just a little bit darker, just kind of depending on wherever your light source would be. So right now we have our back wall, we have the window, we have our bed, table, and door. Remember, you need to include two other things. So oftentimes people like to do floorboards or flooring in the room. Something like that is pretty simple. So I'm going to just take my ruler and put it at the very edge of my paper. And then what you will need to ensure that you do for this part is you just want to make sure that you're creating dashes or dots that are fairly even. So I'm on the like millimeter side of my ruler. So just for simplicity, I'm going to make a mark at every 1 millimeter mark. So by putting these marks here, so I'm now on the 10 millimeter mark, once I have all of these marks down, these marks are then going to connect to my vanishing point. Now, the marks that I have on the left side are going to be at a different angle and a different diagonal than the marks that are on this side. So I have these marks, so here's my very first one. It's fairly small, and I'm just going to connect this to my vanishing point. Now, we don't want to draw through the bed that we already have. So right when I get to that bed line, I stop. and we can't see any more floor after that. Then we're going to come to the next one, and it will be partially hidden by the bed as well. And then really the first few lines that we have, they're going to be hidden by the bed. It's not until we get to the right side of the drawing where the table is that we're going to have more of these flooring lines where they are showing. So with these flooring lines, you think about different types of flooring. You could have tile. Tile is going to be placed in kind of a checkerboard or chess set type pattern. Whereas like wood flooring is going to have like more of an irregular pattern to it, and it's going to have the textures to it. So it'll have that wood grain. Now that I'm past the bed, my flooring lines are going to go all the way to the wall now. So they're not going to be blocked by the bed anymore. So these will go all the way to the wall until we get to the table. And then even the table isn't very large, so it's not going to block very many of these flooring lines, but it will block some of them. So right now we have kind of like these long floorboards. You know, you can make these have texture so they look like wood flooring. Some wood flooring is long like this, you know, maybe in like older style homes, like colonial style homes, whereas other flooring that you may have seen before is kind of irregular in terms of how long each wood board is. Now, with this line, this is where we're going to get to the point where the table is blocking some of it. So it's going to stop here, and then there's just like a very, very tiny space. It's really microscopic, but we're still going to include that right here. And then there's a little space there. So if you do run into something, make sure that you are stopping and starting like that. See, I can't get any more flooring off of that point, because otherwise it may look a little weird if you are drawing and then you leave like a little small area of floor without one of these floor lines. Now other things you can include, so here's another stop and start. Other things you can include, like a rug. You can include carpet texture. Carpet texture is pretty easy. It's just really using your tortillon and just doing like really, really soft stippling on it. So here we have this kind of long floorboard pattern on the floor. So like I mentioned, you can keep these like really long. You can stagger them, meaning I'm now going to use a horizontal line, and we're going to stagger this so that I'm going to make a mark here on this first one and then skip it. Now I've got the bed here, so I'm not too worried about that, but we have this one, then it'd be this one, and this one. Oops, this one, and this one, and then this one. It starts again, and then we'll skip it and do this. And so essentially you're just kind of doing this alternating pattern, and then with the next group of horizontal lines, those will be on the next row of boards. So right now we have these boards, and I need to put a little line right here. So for the next line of boards, you know, this would just be another horizontal line. So we'll just hand draw these. Actually, go ahead and use my ruler just because it's a little bit quicker. And so this is what I was talking about when we were referring to these as staggering. So they kind of do this alternating pattern. And flooring is not always even, so it isn't going to necessarily always be in this like perfect pattern. So you may have some that are maybe a little irregular, meaning like maybe this one is here and this one's here. That one may be there. So we can just vary this up a little bit like that. And so for this flooring, you would just continue these horizontal lines really until you get to the point of being at the wall or really close to it. So I'm just going to add a few more of these. So how wood flooring works, they're kind of like puzzle pieces. They have to interlock, and sometimes they're different lengths. So there's more. And then we can add, we'll add one more set here. Maybe try and fill in the ones that have some like really longer pieces that don't have a horizontal line yet. Just drop one right there. So it gives that appearance of like these kind of staggering pieces of wood. You know, I've got kind of this row here that doesn't have anything. I can for a little more variety, I'll just put maybe a line here and here just to kind of break that up just a little bit. So basic flooring, that's how you're going to do the flooring and those floorboards. You know, if you wanted tile, you would just have the horizontal lines where they just go all the way across and then all the way across. So it creates that checkerboard pattern. But the horizontal lines, again, you want them parallel with that bottom floor line.